A 9-year-old kid just walked into the Rubik's Cube World Championship, the single most anticipated speed cubing event on planet Earth, and lost by 1/100th of a second. That is not a sentence I expected to be saying today. That's not even a sentence I expected to exist. And yet here we are, because the Rubik's Cube World Championship has completely, utterly, cosmically gone too far. And I'm obsessed with every single second of it. Okay, let's rewind, because if you don't understand what the World Championship actually is, you're not going to understand why what I'm about to describe is either the greatest moment in sports history or the most heartbreaking robbery ever committed against a literal child. Possibly both. The Rubik's Cube, you know it. You've definitely owned one. You've almost certainly never solved one. The thing has 43 quintillion possible configurations. 43 quintillion. That's more than the number of atoms in your body. And competitive speed cubers, people like the ones I'm about to introduce you to, solve it in roughly the time it takes you to blink twice and check your phone. The WCA World Championship happens every 2 years. It is the Super Bowl of the cubing world, the Olympics of the cube. The one event where every serious speed cuber on Earth converges, puts their hands on that little plastic puzzle, and tries not to have a mental breakdown in front of thousands of people. The first one was held in Budapest in 1982. The winner's time was 22.95 seconds, and people lost their minds. That seemed impossible. That seemed like the ceiling. Somebody go tell that to the ceiling, because the 2023 edition was held in Incheon, South Korea, and the numbers that were being thrown around by 2023 would have seemed like science fiction to everyone sitting in that Budapest gymnasium. Heading into Incheon, there was one barrier that the entire community had been watching, one question that had been hanging over the sport for years. Could anyone average under 5 seconds? And walking in with the answer, with the audacity, with the sheer unhinged confidence of someone who has absolutely no business being as good as he is, was a 9-year-old boy from China named Yiheng Wang. Now I know what you're thinking. A 9-year-old at the World Championship? Come on. I understand that reaction. I had the same one. Right up until March 10th, 2023. That's the day everything changed. Yiheng Wang, at age 9, walks into a competition in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, and sets a world record average of 4.69 seconds. Not a regional record, not a national record, not an age group record. The world record for the whole planet at 9 years old. For context, the previous world record was 4.86 seconds, jointly held by Max Park and Tymon Kolasinski. Those are two of the most decorated speed cubers who have ever lived. Combined, they have won more international titles than most people have had hot meals. And this 4th grader just took their record, put it in his pocket, and walked out of the room. And here's the thing, he didn't stop there. 3 months later, June 20th, 2023, new world record, 4.48 seconds. Same year, same kid. The community is losing its mind. People are comparing him to Mozart. People are making graphs that look physically impossible, like a line that just keeps falling and falling and falling, and the person making it fall is barely old enough to stay home alone. And here's what makes it genuinely surreal. It's not like he's squeezing out tiny fractions. He is dropping meaningful chunks off a record that the best adult professionals in the world were already straining to hold. The kind of improvement you're supposed to need years to accumulate, he's doing in months. He entered his first WCA competition when he was 5. He won his first title when he was 7. And by the time he's 9, he is statistically the fastest human being to ever touch the cube. Remember, 4.48 seconds. Remember it, because it matters enormously for what happens next. Okay, pause. I have to explain something, because if you're not a cuber, the numbers I'm throwing at you might not be landing with the gravity they deserve. The WCA uses what's called an average of 5. You sit down, you solve the cube 5 times in a row. They throw out your fastest solve and your slowest solve, and they average the middle 3. This is not generous. This punishes inconsistency. This punishes nerves. This punishes the kind of thing that happens when thousands of people are screaming and the cameras are on you and your hands are shaking. The average human reaction time is around 0.25 seconds. A single blink is 0.15 to 0.4 seconds. What Yiheng Wang is doing when he solves the cube is executing somewhere between 50 and 70 distinct finger movements, each one precisely placed, precisely sequenced, with zero margin for error in under 5 seconds, from a completely randomized scramble, while being 9 years old. There's a metric in speed cubing called TPS, turns per second. Elite cubers average around 10 to 12 TPS. Yiheng has been clocked north of 13, which means his fingers are moving faster than you can consciously process. You could watch him solve the cube in real time and not be able to tell me a single move he made. He is not solving a puzzle. He's executing a program that has been so deeply embedded into his muscle memory that it has become reflex, pure automatic, pre-conscious reflex. He told Guinness World Records that before he starts a solve, he inspects the cube and plans his entire approach. Then, during the solve itself, he said he only has to focus on rhythm. He doesn't think about the solution. He already knows the solution. He just has to let his hands run it. That is what walks into the 2023 World Championship. A 9-year-old boy whose hands have been trained since age 5 to think faster than his brain. So here we are, August 2023, Incheon, South Korea, the finals of the 3x3x3 event. And standing between Yiheng Wang and the World Championship title is the other person you need to know about. Max Park, 21 years old, Korean American, two-time world champion. A cuber so dominant that he has basically been the axis around which the entire competitive scene has rotated for years. The man set the single solve world record, 3.13 seconds. Just months before this event. He is objectively the greatest speed cuber of his generation, and he came into Worlds as the defending champion, the current world record holder and the heavy favorite. Now I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, this is a classic David and Goliath story, right? The plucky prodigy versus the established king. And you're not wrong. But what if I told you that the story gets much more complicated than that? Because something happens during Yiheng's fifth and final solve that the cubing community is still arguing about to this day. Someone in the crowd shouts, whether it was directed at him, whether it was an accident, whether it was just the ambient chaos of a packed arena, nobody agrees. But it happens, right as the solve is already in motion. And those of you who know anything about elite level sport know exactly what a sudden shout does to a competitor mid-flow. Even a fraction of a flinch, even 100th of a second of disruption. You already know where this is going, and it's making your stomach hurt, and you're right, and I'm sorry. The community buzzes, appeals are raised, debates ignite on every forum, every Discord, every comment section the cubing internet has to offer, and the verdict comes back. The result stands, the scores are calculated, the middle three solves are averaged, and this is the number that comes back. Max Park, 5.31 seconds. Yiheng Wang, 5.32 seconds. The margin is 0.01 second, 1/100th of a second. The difference between world champion and runner-up, the difference between lifting the trophy and standing one step to the left of it, is a duration so small it falls below the threshold of human perception. It is smaller than a camera frame. It is smaller than the gap between one heartbeat and the next. Yiheng Wang is 9 years old. He has just competed in his first world championship ever. He is the youngest person in history to reach the final, and he has lost by a margin that does not exist in any meaningful human experience. The crowd goes quiet in the way crowds go quiet when something feels wrong. Not wrong in the sense that the rules were broken, wrong in the sense that the universe clearly had a different script in mind and someone forgot to send it to the scoreboard. But here's where the story takes the turn that every great story eventually takes. The turn toward what was always going to happen. Because Yiheng Wang does not stop. He does not slow down. He does not appear to process defeat in any conventional human way. He goes right back to competing, right back to the circuit, and he starts doing something that genuinely borders on the supernatural. He breaks the world record again and again and again. And then in July 2025, 2 years after Incheon, he walks into the World Championship in Seattle. He's now 11 years old. He sits down. He solves the cube 5 times. His average comes out at 4.23 seconds. Yiheng Wang is the 2025 WCA World Champion. The leaderboard for the greatest cubing performances in human history is essentially his personal highlight reel. He set the second fastest average ever at 3.90 seconds. He broke Max Park's single solve world record of 3.13, the one Park set at the peak of his career, clocking 3.08 seconds on a cube in Malaysia. A solve that analysts reconstructed afterward and noted he locked up slightly near the end. If he hadn't, we might be looking at something close to sub 3 seconds to solve 43 quintillion possible configurations. So yeah, a 9-year-old kid almost won the world championship, then came back 2 years later and actually won it, set 11 world records along the way, and is currently doing things with a plastic toy that human fingers were almost certainly not designed to do. Is this the most unhinged sporting story of the decade? I think it might be. I think there is a legitimate case to be made that Yiheng Wang is one of the most statistically dominant competitors in any discipline alive today. I said what I said. Come at me. Anyway, I spent an unreasonable amount of time researching this video, and my cube is still scrambled on my desk because I cannot solve it in under 3 minutes, let alone 4 seconds. Subscribe if you respect that kind of humbling experience. I'll see you in the next one.